Hello and good evening, everyone. It's time for another edition of Tone's Market Analysis. I'm doing these live, so please join in. Feel free to ask questions, and I will try to get to those at the end. Before we start, just wanted to updated my blog. Here is our latest Bitcoin group episode, where we talk about the Bitcoin price, of course, and the fact that Goldman Sachs doesn't seem to know what a blockchain is, right? So check that out. That's on my blog. Also, my upcoming travel schedule. This weekend, I will be in Miami. I'm speaking Friday night at the hackathon, and then that's followed by the TNABC. I am not speaking at the main conference. After that, I'm in Toronto on February 6th. Definitely check that out if you're in Canada. And of course, Acapulco. Here is the website for Acapulco. It's a good conference. It's a lot of fun. I like being in Mexico. And during this conference, at the end of the conference, I will be teaching, where it is, right here, a 2-day seminar about trading. So just clicked on it. Hopefully it will load quick. And here it is. So you can see the description of what we're going to go over. We're going to go over candlesticks, moving averages, indicators. I'm going to talk about gaps. And on day 2, we're going to open up, the live market and take a look at what's going on. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the markets. As always, I like talking about the traditional markets first. I think it's important. I think all of economics is important. I'm not actually going to talk much about economics. Nothing really happened outside of China. And I talked about China in the last episode, so check that out. Looking at the futures at the end of the weekend, everything is pretty much flat. From gold to stocks to oil, down a few cents, up a few cents. So definitely nothing of interest happened. All right, let's jump into the S&P 500. I'm probably going to go through these really, really quick. I have been short-term bearish the overall stock market. The stock market has found itself to be fairly resilient, and the S&P has made a new all-time high this past Friday. So this is the trade I currently have. It was making decent returns on this trade, but my target was not hit, and I did not set my stop loss to break even. So this will probably be exited as a losing trade. And tomorrow, if we close above 2280, then I'll be out of this trade, right? It's possible that we're still going to pull back, but the market has proven itself very resilient. I wanted to take this counter move trade to try and take advantage of the pullback, but didn't work out, so that's what happens. Here is the weekly chart. Again, I was looking for a drop to about 2200 at least. Ideally, you want it to drop back to the breakout levels, so even lower than 2200, like 2175, or even this line right here, which was the previous Fibonacci line from the 2015 high. So that would have also been a nice pullback. And none of this materialized. And if tomorrow is an up day, then it looks like we want to go higher, and I will be exiting the short trade. I may or may not enter the long trade. We'll see how Monday plays out, but you'll know by Wednesday what I've done with my positions. Here's the Dow. This is why I was looking to go short here, the 913.9 sell. If you're not familiar with these numerical indicators, well, that's what the internet is good for. But a lot of this stuff is actually proprietary and under trademarks, so I have to watch what I say here. Even though I did build this index myself in TradingView with code. I did borrow a lot of that code from other people, but I did make my own alterations to it. So it's hard to, it will be difficult to accuse me of breaching a trademark on the indicator. It also might just be a name trademark, which is why I can't say the name of the indicator. Okay, so this is why I was looking for some pullback, which didn't happen, and now these numbers are somewhat random. It's possible that we're headed for a 13 after this creation of a 9, which would probably land it somewhere in the above the 20,000 mark, and we're almost at 20,000 on the Dow. All right, let's jump into gold. So I have a bullish gold position. I am long gold. As much crap as I talk about gold going to new lows under 1,000, I did jump on the long. Now, I jumped on gold late, not because I was scared to go long gold, is because I was talking about gold going up from here, but I just wasn't really taking on any directional positions. And then I discovered one broker, or someone recommended me one broker, and now I'm able to put on small positions for like $100, and this way I have some money on the line, so it's something keeps me honest, I guess. So I do have a long position in gold. I was looking for the initial bounce in gold to end around here. Obviously, once I drew this other green arrow from here, and that's where I took on the long position, I'm expecting a bigger move in gold. So now I can just take this arrow, I can clone it, and I'm still looking for the down move in gold, but probably from here. I don't know, it may go higher. We'll see what happens when we get there. I'm debating if I want to delete this arrow. I don't want to backwash, but I also don't want them to clubber my charts. So maybe I'll leave it till Wednesday, and then I'll delete it on Wednesday. But this arrow will probably be deleted, not because I don't want, not because I'm backwashing these arrows, but because they get kind of in the way, and I want to have a clean chart especially if there is money on the line, even if it's $20. All right, so here's the weekly version of gold, and as you can see, we've already pulled back to the first Fibonacci line from this up move over 2016. And when I talked about gold in the long term, I talked about how I didn't like this up move. It made no sense to me. Gold never bottomed. You don't get, this is a weekly chart, right? You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, let's say 6.5 weeks, almost 7 weeks to get out of a low. That's not how lows form, guys. It's really not. Like, that's a low, right? You have one chance to get out or get in, well, however you want to call it, and then you miss it. And then you miss it by a pretty wide margin. I mean, this wick right here, it's at least 30 points. This was a big week. And look, and then we came back to it, right? So once you see a double bottom, it's not, to me, this is why I hate double bottoms. When I see a double bottom, oh, that's a second chance for someone to get out of their good short or to get in on a good long. The market isn't accommodating like that. The market isn't gonna hand you money on a silver platter, as everyone in China learned. When you place a bet that the Chinese government will continuously devalue the yuan, and you leverage your bet that they're going to devalue the yuan, and you leverage it on top of that leverage by buying Bitcoin, a nice wrench gets thrown in there that takes down the entire Bitcoin market. Okay, that's how the market works. The market works when you know something's going to happen, and then it doesn't. Okay, so when you have these double bottoms, I don't like them. It tells me there is a lower low coming, and there was the low 6 months later, and then there was a lower low, And this is just way too much time in weeks for you to pick the all-time low. Like, one person gets to pick the all-time low, right? Maybe like 100 people in the world will pick the 5-year low in gold. You don't get 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks to get in on this trade. You're not going to have like every single blogger saying they caught the low. The market doesn't work that way. It's complete nonsense. So this is one of the reasons why I don't believe this is the low. You're not going to get this many chances to get in or out. I mean, again, look at the all-time high, right? You have this wick right here. This is a weekly wick. That's probably, what do we got here? 1885 up to 1920. So we're talking $35 range right here. Then there was a bigger wick here, right? But then we did go higher. And then look what happened the week after. Boom. And then we never even came close. Like this is what, $100 difference. Never came close. That's a high. That's a high. You don't get this double top where you get a second chance to get out. Markets don't work that way, right? So if you bought gold here, you're still screwed if you're still holding it. So the bottom is going to happen the same way. You'll get like one chance to get out, maybe two. But again, see, they're both wicks. They're both wicks. So to me, wicks count for something. All right, enough rambling on gold. Let's jump onto oil. Again, oil is another commodity I do have a position in. You can see my position right here. These are the daily candles. The numbers aren't helping me at all here, but I was looking for a move, mistimed it by a few days. I was looking for an up move. I called this one, looking for a pullback. That didn't work out. But now we are here. Now I entered this position here. Again, this is another position I entered late, and not because I was just lazy entering the position. I should have really entered it over here and kept it above this low. But anyway, I'm still in this position. I entered it at the worst possible time. I entered it on this down candle right here, and then it just kept crashing all day. And this is when you think you're the worst trader in the world. But I held on to it because it didn't reach my stop loss. And I'm about to go back in the green. I'm expecting to go back in the green. And then my outlook on oil is pretty bullish because I'm looking at this inverse head and shoulders. So I am looking for up moves back to the 200-day moving average. I like the 50-day moving average going up. So I entered this position on a multi-month long basis, and I'm going to hold on to it. And my stop loss is when this is coming back to around $50 a barrel. All right, so I can actually close all of these now. I want to free up my memory. And now we go here, and we're doing currencies next. Restore all. All right, this might take a minute. All right, I'll get to your comments and questions at the end. It's hard for me to do a show on my own and also keep up with the live chat. So while these are loading, yeah, normally I'm going to throw some economics on there, but not today. Didn't have anything ready today. Uh-oh, what crashed? I'm still doing okay. Maybe trying to open too many tabs at once. Have to keep an eye on that. All right, so here's the US dollar. I did zoom in on the US dollar to have a chart just so I can keep an eye on my numerical indicator. Basically, I didn't want to miss this 9 again. This 9 would have been a nice sell signal in the US dollar. And I didn't have it open because I wasn't looking at the daily charts of the dollar. So dollar pulled back a little bit. We had a nice big up day. You combine these two candles together, you have a nice hammer candle, and the 50-day still going up. We have a higher low. We have a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. But again, right, you have this giant box right here where multiple chances to get out. But no one actually trades the US dollar, so that no one's really getting out. And we had this pullback. So now if today's candle is back up, if we close today above 102.50, that's going to be pretty bullish for me. We would have closed above the previous high. We would have reversed my counts, keep it from going to a red 9, well, orange 9 in this case, and solidify this low. So that would set up the dollar to go up. And here is the weekly dollar. And we're still, above this Fibonacci line. And we might hang here for a little bit, and then the dollar goes way up. So when a dollar goes way up, everything else is going to go way down. So because I'm traveling to 2 foreign countries next month in February, it's time to keep an eye on their currencies as well. One of the countries I'll be going to is Canada. So I'm just curious so I know what exchange rate I'm getting the moment I step foot at the airport to make sure that the airports don't rip me off. It's really weird when you're traveling. In some countries, the airport will give you the absolute worst rate, like not even close. The euro is one of those places. You go to like the airport and you get like the worst rate. And other countries, the airport will give you the best rate. I forgot, maybe it was Morocco or some country where the best rate you would get in your favor is at the airport. And I never would have guessed. I always assumed the airport is like the worst exchange rate. I always wait till I get into town. So it's good to be aware of the exchange rate the moment you go to a place. So here's the Canadian dollar. I had no idea it got that bad over in Canada, where $1 US will buy you 135 Canadian. And we are making another low. I like this wick right here. But again, we're forming a 9. So, I mean, the first few days of this week are going to be crucial for the US dollar and foreign currencies. Here's a longer term view of the Canadian dollar. It got really bad last year. Last time I was in Canada, I was getting like the $1.30 rate. I think it was around here in September. This was the first scaling event. And prior to that, I was in Canada around this time where it was just over 1-to-1. So I threw a couple of Fibonacci's on here, and we're coming back. We came back and we hit the 50% Fibonacci twice. I don't think this is going to go down much more. This is a nice bearish channel for the Canadian dollar. And I think we're going to break out, and the Canadian dollar will go to 150 to the US dollar. Another country I'm going to is Mexico. That would be for Acapulco, and the Mexican currency is really getting hit. It's now at 21. Last year in Acapulco, oh, this is a daily chart. So this has been, so it's just getting hit daily. Let's not waste time on daily. Let's take a look at a longer term chart. Mexican peso, and I can see why they're having riots now, and the price of gasoline over there is going up because I don't think they have a really big gasoline industry locally, so they have to buy their gas, and then the gas is priced in US dollars, and the price of gas is going up because the price of oil is going up, and I talked about that on prior videos. That's manipulation. Okay, so don't I'm so tired of this gold manipulation. It's gold, silver, precious metals manipulation. It's starting to drive me up the wall. You want to talk about manipulation? Talk about oil. Talk about how the world is colluding to produce less oil to drive the price up. No one anyway, everyone's happy when the price of gold goes up, and when it doesn't, it's manipulation. But when the price of oil is going up because of manipulation to cause the price of oil going up, and it's obvious, they're not even hiding it. They're announcing it. We are forcing everyone to produce less oil, so the price of your oil goes up. No one seems to have a problem with it, that they're actually spending day to day. I also tweeted out the other day, why aren't people mad at the industry? Because apparently there was collusion for like 8 years to keep the price of eggs up. Yeah, and don't get me started on why aren't there diamonds being traded in the futures markets. I don't want to rag on gold some more, but everyone's upset that there are futures in gold. Well, look at the diamond industry. There's no futures on diamonds, and that's probably the most manipulated and controlled world. The value of your diamond, because there's no open market. Nobody can speculate on the price of a diamond in the futures market, and there's no price discovery. So of course the diamond industry is going to set whatever prices they want. Anyway, here's the Mexican peso. Last Anarchapulco trip was February, and I remember the exchange rate being around 18 to 19 to the dollar. So I'll have a really good time in Mexico, especially if it goes up to 22 by February. I mean, they're not happy, but those of us coming from the US will be. Here's the euro, and again, daily chart in the euro, just to keep an eye on these numbers. They're all over the place. The euro's been stronger than I like. If there is one market I have a tunnel vision on, it's the euro, guys. And it's just, I mean, I've been talking crap about the euro for years. We're talking probably before I got into the Bitcoin space, I've been talking crap about the euro. And it took a while. Like, I thought this was the end of the euro here back in 2012, 2011, when the euro was having problems. And then, I had to realize the reality of being wrong for a year and a half with it going back to 140. Then it started this collapse, and this was a huge collapse, and I'm waiting for this to repeat. We'll repeat. We're back to this double bottom. Again, I hate double bottoms. We're going to test this double bottom from below. I really hope we don't go back to 1.1, but either way, the euro is done. Just put a fork in it. It's just going to take longer than you expect. I mean, I could be like the gold bugs, right? I could be screaming that the euro is going to break up and the currency won't exist, and I could be saying it for the next 20 years as it slowly and slowly and slowly, gets to like $1, but never actually implode. Like altcoins, they never actually die. They just get closer and closer to zero. Here's the British pound. Again, here's the daily. Nothing here, just consolidation. But here's my trade, my first ever trade in the currency space. And I went short the euro-pound pair because I think the British pound is way oversold relative to the euro, and I don't really want to speculate on the dollar. So I am looking for this to realize this head and shoulders, and my stop loss is fairly generous, and then we're going back down. At least I hope we are. So that's my one trade in the traditional currencies. All right, so I can close all of these, and we can talk about cryptos. No, which one? This one, restore all. All right, so here's the weekly chart, and we really, I like it when Bitcoin kind of goes down a little bit, gives you a chance to pick up more Bitcoin for the long term. But this was a big indecision candle with wicks on both sides with a very wide range. And This week isn't starting off very good, even though we're about half a day into this week. So this week kind of needs to be positive. We really want to close this week above 915. If we close this week above 915, then we're probably headed back to all-time highs. If this week is looking weak, then I am looking at this Fibonacci right here, and I have it at 756, which is basically the 760 breakout. Okay, so that's my longer term view. Jumping onto my channel here, we didn't really hit the top of the channel and we didn't really hit the bottom of the channel, but we're within this channel. So if we hit the bottom of the channel, that's perfectly fine. Nothing is wrong here. The bottom of the channel is now at about 825, rising quickly. Also, the RSI, I mean, look what happened the last time we broke out and hit overbought. We were here, all the way back down and hit this nice oversold condition right here at the bottom of the channel. That was perfect. If we can hit the bottom of the channel with another oversold condition, and the bottom of this channel being around 825, 830, that would be pretty damn good. Worst case scenario, we have the 760 support, and below that we have the 200-day moving average, which again is rising fairly quickly. So unless we start hitting this in another crash, it's going to come back up and be near this channel sooner or later. So I'm not worried about Bitcoin. I'm still bullish Bitcoin. If it goes down short term, it's okay. But this is one of the reasons why I don't really trade Bitcoin daily, because of what happened. It goes up unreasonably, way too far and way too quick. And then it crashes unreasonably, again, way too far and way too quick. Though in this case, it didn't even crash that far. Here is the zoomed in version on the hourly chart. Now, if I did this video about 12 hours ago or a day ago, oh, by the way, when I did talk about this chart in on the Bitcoin group last week, not last week, I want to say this past Friday. And when I was talking about it, we were right here. We were right at 885. And I didn't like this inverse cup and handle pattern, or triangle, whatever you want to call it. And I did say on Friday that we're probably going to crash down one more time. Obviously, I didn't know how far it was going to go. But I also said that by next Friday will be higher than 885. 885. If I was doing this video, 4 or 5 hours ago, I would have said this should probably be the low because of this 50-hour moving average coupling to the upside. This would bring this up, but we've now fallen below it. This is kind of bad. If we start falling below 880, this low is in jeopardy. I don't believe in double bottoms, so if we get back to this low, we're probably going lower all the way to 760. And so let's see what happens tomorrow morning, Monday morning. If we get anywhere near this, I'm going to assume we're going to go below it, only because I don't like double bottoms or double tops. All right, good news. The Brave New Coin Liquid Index is back. They solved the problem, so I will be migrating. They promised me that that problem won't happen again. And usually the same problem never happens again. They're usually completely different problems. But I will be moving my daily and weekly charts to the TradingViews Liquid Index. I will put the ticker to this index in my description. I'll also put a pop-up on this video when this video ends so people can find it. This uptick in volume, me and Bobby Lee need to have a little chat because this is all BTC China doing, and I need to dig into their volumes because they were normal until the last few months. So I don't know what the hell it is going on over there, but maybe they changed some policies. I don't know. But I don't like this volume. I need to look into this. I don't trust Chinese volume. I think it's complete bullshit. If the Chinese government, if the Chinese central bank is going to get involved in Bitcoin, please deal with the volume numbers at the Chinese exchanges. So Bitcoin trying to drop their fees. Did they have fees before? If they drop their fees and they have bots running wild, that would annoy me. But zero fee trading has always annoyed me. You need fees, guys. You need fees. When you don't have fees, bad things happen. So don't blame the government of China for messing with the Bitcoin market. Put the blame on zero fee trading and fake volume if there is fake volume. And if not fake volume, they got to prove it somehow that it's not fake. All right, so here is Bitcoin. These are weekly. No, these are daily candles now on the liquid index, and we got down to about 830. Again, China drove it up, China drove it down, and people were just over leveraged. So the reason why I like this index, and this doesn't have any annotations yet, is because I can do this. I can do a chart of Bitcoin, and I can take it all the way back. Well, in this picture, it goes back to 2012, but I can zoom this out, and I can bring this sucker all the way back to 2010. So this allows me to do very long dated analysis on things. And again, right, this is the volume problem. So either I have to drop volume off this chart and ignore it, or got to figure out what's going on over there. All right. On that note, I don't have much else to say about Bitcoin. Oh, by the way, this is end of day data. So this is why this says 914, and Bitfinex has 880 now. So that's not good. So it's probably going to drop lower. But this is end of day, and clearly the day hasn't ended yet. So I'm not sure what hour the day ends, but that's easy to figure out. Okay. All right, that's my view on the markets. Just a little over 30 minutes, I think. All right, any questions? If you have questions, type them in the live chat. I'll spend a few minutes on questions. Maybe I'll scroll back through the chat and take a look, see what else is going on. Do I ever look at the Bitcoin chart that's not in log scale? Yeah, but sometimes it doesn't really matter all that much. Bitcoin moves too much. It's very difficult. I look at it sometimes. I have other interesting charts from back in the day. Let me see here. I haven't updated this chart in a while, but I will. What happened there? Where's my Bitcoin silver chart? I'll need to update it for my presentation in Miami and Toronto. But the correlation has ended. And yeah, this is Bitcoin in linearly without the log scale. Bitcoin is in blue, by the way. Silver is the backdrop, and silver was leading, and then Bitcoin was leading, and they had the same exact bubble crash off the bubble, and now Bitcoin started to lead, and they looked identical, but now Bitcoin's going up and silver is still going down, so the relationship has somewhat ended. I thought this move in Bitcoin might have caused this move up in silver, but that's not happening, so this relationship sort of ended. Trying to think if I have other creative charts on here, but Yeah, this is my full history, by the way. This is what I use for my presentations. And I need to update. I'm updating my presentations now in order to have this as the backdrop to my presentation. And this is why I really like the Brave New Coin index, is that I can do this. I have a chart of Bitcoin from when it was 10 cents all the way up to today. Or, well, yesterday anyway, because it's end of day data. All right, so this chart's pretty cool. Allows you to do some cool graphics, which I haven't gotten to yet. All right, more questions. Can you suggest a buy and hold stock for the midterm? Do you think? I don't recommend stocks. I don't recommend stock. I don't recommend stocks for two reasons. One, it might be illegal for me to recommend any stocks, and because I'm not a financial advisor. This is why I talk about indices and futures and currencies, because there's really no such thing as insider trading on those instruments. And so I don't actually, I don't recommend individual stocks, nor would I want to. But do you think S&P ETF 2x or 3x would be a bad idea? I don't like the leveraged ETFs. I never did. I think the leveraged ETFs are really bad. Leveraged ETFs are one of those mechanisms designed to trick you into losing money. They're like legal. I don't want to. They're not Ponzi schemes, but they cost you money. They will always cost you money because of the volatility. Like if you take just, you can do a very simple experiment. You take the 3x ETF on the financials. I think it's FAZ and FAS, right? There's the triple bull and the triple bear financials. You put it on a Google chart and you take it back 2 years and you will see an insane downtrend. I don't have time to get into why that is, but leveraged ETFs are, look into the construction of that ETF. If you're going to buy it in the morning and sell it end of day, that's fine. If you're going to buy it in the evening and sell it the following day, that's also fine. But if you're going to hold it for any amount of time, a leveraged ETF is terrible. It will literally, there's like a hidden fee every single night. And if you hold it for a year, you're going to watch your entire position bleed away very, very slowly, unless you literally catch like 3 months in a row of up days or down days in the right direction. I don't know. Segwit's been an issue. I think the Segwit support starting to happen, at least verbally, but Segwit support hasn't happened technologically. So I don't know. We need Segwit. I mean, it's life's going to be difficult for Bitcoiners without Segwit. Do I think corporations will eventually start issuing their own digital currencies in the future? No, that would be dumb. There's a reason why this never happened during the dot-com crisis. Imagine where would Netflix be today if Netflix charged you their own monopoly currency, or if Netflix charged you stock to buy Netflix. Where would eBay be if eBay had their own stock, right? That you needed to buy eBay products, right? So you go to E-Trade, right? You put in money into E-Trade, and then you buy eBay stock in order to then use this eBay stock to buy from eBay. And then who knows if the sellers on eBay will want eBay stock. They will need eBay stock in order to pay eBay a commission or post stuff on there. You see how insane this analogy is getting, right? And then what about E-Trade? E-Trade is a publicly traded company. What if E-Trade charged you E-Trade stock to use E-Trade to buy other company stock? I mean, this is the insane proposition of these ICOs, that every single project needs its own currency in order to function. this is dumb. This is completely dumb. The world is doing okay with like a few currencies. When you have too many currencies, it's also problematic, which is why the euro decided to combine into one currency. They just screwed up in the way they did it. They could have actually no, they never had a chance from the beginning to have a common currency because they don't have a common language and they don't have common debt. Debt's probably the bigger problem than the common language. The common language will prevent them from unifying, like physically, but economically, it's the common debt that is going to implode the euro. So no, I think it's very, very silly that all these projects in the crypto space are literally creating their own unstable, unsecure money. And it's unnecessary and it only complicates the system. Let's see. Would I consider cryptocurrencies as a start of a new industry? No. An industry is not a currency. A currency is just a medium of exchange. If you're lucky, your currency is a store of value. The US dollar is a pretty damn good store of value. I know gold bugs don't believe it. I know the US dollar has lost its value in the last 100 years, but no one's been alive for 100 years. And if your grandfather left you an inheritance by putting it in the stock market, you are a very rich man. And so no, I mean, if you're lucky, your currency is a store of value. I know the US dollar is a store of value because I have all these foreign currencies in my house because I travel and I usually come home with at least 30 to 40 US dollars worth of foreign currency, just so I always have enough money for a cab next time I go to that country. And guess what? Some of these countries I'm going to go back to after a few years, like Vietnam, like Thailand, or Mexico, and or even Canada, and I may not have enough money for a cab, right? I would have been better off exchanging that money at the worst possible exchange rate at their foreign airports and taking my US dollars home and then converting them again later. So the US dollar has had a pretty damn good store of value lately. So no, I don't see this as a new industry. I see a lot of good things coming out of it. Look, people talk about the .com crisis as being bad. It was also good. Yes, 98% of the companies failed, but look what came out of it. The Amazon and the eBay and the Netflix and the Facebook and all these other companies, Groupon, and even though their stock's terrible because their model is very easily recreatable, but all of these good things came out of it. So what I'm expecting from the crypto industry is to educate people on privacy, educate people on a medium of exchange that doesn't involve government and encryption, and that your data needs to be protected. So I'm really liking what Airbits is doing by bringing edge security and having people have full access to their private files with their own control. And even though that can be dangerous in case you really screw up on your backup. But this is what I'm looking for. I'm also looking for the Bitcoin industry to prevent the government from having this war on drugs, having this war on confiscation, and maybe legalize all drugs. Legalizing all drugs will be very bad for the Bitcoin price, but it will be very good for society. So you have to make a choice, right? Would you rather have Bitcoin go up in value, or would you rather have a more peaceful society? And if government came out and declared Bitcoin illegal, it might be very good for the price, but is it good for the society? Probably not. If government came out and embraced Bitcoin, it may not be as great for the Bitcoin price, right? Or not that they embrace Bitcoin. If government came out and, this is never going to happen because they're doubling down. Government is doubling down on money laundering laws. But let's say, just like the drug war, right? The government is slowly reversing their stand on the drug war, and drugs are slowly becoming normalized and they're becoming legal. What if in 20 years, the same thing is happening with money laundering laws? People realize that having a war on cash, having a war on money laundering is bad for society, and they remove these restrictions, and money laundering is no longer a crime because it's a made-up crime to begin with. That would be terrible for Bitcoin. That would be the worst possible thing for Bitcoin. Lower taxes is bad for Bitcoin. Legalizing prostitution is bad for Bitcoin. These are the things that would lower the value of Bitcoin, because then Bitcoin wouldn't be needed to buy these things. So it's a double-edged sword, right? Like what's bad for society is good for Bitcoin because it fills that niche. So that's what I'm looking for from Bitcoin. Yes, I may not be rich if the government reverses their stand against money laundering and then Bitcoin is no longer needed, but society will be better off. So there you go. So I'm looking for that realization in coming out of the Bitcoin movement and the crypto movement. But all these companies that issued ICOs, no, these companies will not survive. They're all from Ethereum on down to whatever, Wings, or I can just name them all. It doesn't matter. They're not going to survive. When am I coming to the UK? I don't know. I don't have any plans to come to the UK. I really need to, though. I've never been to the UK. I really want to. No, I don't really want to, but I should be there at some point in my life. Bitcoin ETF being granted. I think Bitcoin ETF being granted is a very stupid idea. I think I've talked about this on other podcasts. If you go to my blog, Liberty Life Trail, I don't want to, do another monologue on that Bitcoin ETF. If you go to my blog, Liberty Life Trail, you go to the search bar, you put an ETF, and you'll see all my ranting about the Bitcoin ETF. I can probably name a dozen things that are bad. I'll just start with the top two. First of all, will there be Bitcoin underlying the ETF? And the answer everyone's going to say is yes, there should be Bitcoin underlying the ETF. Okay, who is securing this Bitcoin, right? Is it going to be a Mt. Gox situation? Is it going to be a Crypti situation? Who is securing this Bitcoin? What happens when your underlying Bitcoin is hacked? Who's responsible for it? Who's insuring this Bitcoin? Since one of the Winklevoss brothers are, so where is their expertise in securing Bitcoin? And where's their expertise in running an exchange, right? Or running an ETF for that matter. Anyway, so that's one big problem. And the other problem, and like who's guarding this ETF, right? Who's going to hold the private keys? Is the SEC going to hold the private key? Is the exchange going to hold the private key? Are the Winklevoss themselves going to hold the private key? And the same goes for SolidX. And also, what's the redemption process going to be like? And so there's a lot of problems with it. It's hard for me to go off the top of my head what the other problems were, but I'm pretty sure I've covered all the bases in other videos on this. Would Coinbase intentionally allow a hack to occur to give good reasons for loss of records and thus incur a lesser penalty than the charges that could arise once the books? No, because a hack, if Coinbase has a hack, the records are still there. Who had how many Bitcoins? Yes, those Bitcoins are now stolen, so that people, I don't know, are you better off? Are you better off with losing 100% of your value than paying the IRS 20%? So no, that would not be a good idea. Question: since Ethereum and Ethereum Classic are essentially similar, I don't see why would the rent would go up to 10. All of this while ETF floats around. So I don't know what's going to happen with with Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. I initially said I expected them to reach parity eventually, both in hashing power and in price. Of course, the hashing power on Ethereum is way higher than Ethereum Classic, and the price is higher on Ethereum. But that's also because the Ethereum Foundation was holding a lot of Ethereum Classic that they've been selling onto the market. There's a lot of manipulation goes on in these markets, and sooner or later, Ethereum Classic will go up. Remember, Ethereum is going to proof of stake. So who knows what's going to happen? I'm expecting them to fork again. And if they don't fork, all of the miners from Ethereum are going to go to Ethereum Classic. And then you have two completely different coins. It would be weird calling both of them Ethereum when one is proof of stake, which is not technologically innovative, and one is, I guess, a blockchain, which is stupid because for having its own currency to do smart contracts. So both Ethereums are going into the toilet. Why you think Bitcoin goes so low? It doesn't go so low. It's not low. I mean, look at this daily chart. It's anything but low. We've been steadily going up from this low here of around 200, and the Greek crisis, which was my turn in trend with the Greek crisis at about 240, and in the last year and a half, well, actually a little more than that, right? One summer. Yeah, in the last year and a half, we're up from about 250 all the way to 890 right now. We're still higher than the previous high. We're still $100 higher than we were a month ago. I mean, guys, Bitcoin isn't low. Bitcoin is still high, and it's possible that it's still unreasonably high. Do I think the monetary supply being controlled by people and government is a good or bad for society? Personally, I think Bitcoin is a fair monetary foundation for society to build on. I don't know. I don't know if government's control of money is better than something like Bitcoin or not. I don't know. Nobody does, right? We've had the gold standard, and economies went up and down. I mean, we've had these bubbles under the gold standard. The Mississippi bubble, the tulip bubble, the crash of 1897, the crash of 1907 was one of the biggest financial crashes in history. That was caused by the earthquake in San Francisco. I mean, we don't know what is better. The boom and bust cycles of economy, they don't go away. They're always there. I don't know if the world will be better off with Bitcoin as the world reserve currency with nobody in control. Is it good that SegWit can't get passed? I don't know. I don't think it's good that it can't get passed, but it also solidifies the fact that Bitcoin code is stable. It's difficult to change it unless it's a real bug. It's hard to say what's better. Look, I was a gold bug too at one point. I also thought that all this manipulation is happening, but look where we are. Everyone talks about how bad things are. I mean, man, I'm sitting here like mad at Microsoft because they're so late in giving me an upgraded Microsoft Surface 5. Look at how our technology is evolving. I look back when I was in college and getting my first cell phone, which was probably like bigger than, I guess, probably as big as my current cell phone today, but it was a very, very different kind of big cell phone. Like, look, technology is advancing at such an enormous rate. Every year, I'm so much better off, and my life is so much easier than it was the year before. Yes, the TSA sucks. Yes, I had a more convenient time traveling, a few years ago, and the speed of airplanes hasn't gotten any faster. And in fact, it went backwards. The Concorde doesn't exist anymore. It would be nice, to get across the world faster than I do today. It would be nice not to have to wait on these giant lines, because I'm still not willing to provide a blood sample and my fingerprints to the TSA in order to, be TSA free. And those things are a major annoyance. It sucks that Airbnb now charges me taxes, and Airbnb is no longer cheaper than hotels. So now I'm 50-50 hotels, Airbnb. Uber, the drivers of the Uber cabs kind of suck now. They were much better before. And I understand why that is. I accept it. But it's getting better, right? I can't wait for self-driving cars. That would be awesome. Yes, it sucks that the government will know where you are at all times, and they can just, turn off the car and lock you in if they want you. That's bad. But that doesn't have all that much to do with money. Because if you have a good idea and you have a good product, it will make it to the market sooner or later, hopefully sooner than later, to make my life easier and your lives as well. So is the government controlling the currency bad or good? Well, when they're responsible with it, it could be good. You can say that America has been irresponsible with the control of their monetary system for the last 100 years, but they've been 100 times more responsible than anybody else. Yes, it is the fastest chihuahua in the bunch, but it's what we have. I don't know what would happen, right? Like, I know the gold bugs want the complete collapse to go back to the gold standard or whatever, or they just want their gold to go up in value. But is it good for society? I don't know. I think it will be bad for society if we have a really bad crash, and then we go back to like the 1900 level. I don't want the electricity to go out. People make fun of Bitcoin. They're like, oh, Bitcoin has no intrinsic value. What are you going to do when there's no internet? And my answer is, there's no internet, we all die, pretty much, right? More or less. I don't know what I'd do with my life if I had no internet. It's great to get away from the internet for a week or two, but that's probably about it. The banking system would sure as hell shut down. Nobody will be able to pay their bills if there's no internet. I don't even have checks in my house anymore. Then they take the argument of, what if there's no electricity? I'm like, okay, then everybody dies, right? There's like 1,000 nuclear power plants all over the world. What do you think happens if there's no electricity around the world for 2 weeks? Well, there's a nuclear meltdown in every jurisdiction in the world, pretty much. I don't even know where you go. I don't know, middle of the South Pole? I don't know. Middle of Antarctica? I have no idea where you go hide if there's no electricity. Everybody's done. Like 1,000 Fukushimas all at once. There you go. That's the world you want to live in. We have Bitcoin. It's not going anywhere. Can Bitcoin screw up and get replaced by another crypto? Maybe. It will be difficult. It will be very difficult. It's not like Facebook and MySpace. All right, I went off on a tangent again. Questions. Bitcoin and Litecoin, hope as well. I've read that 30% of Bitcoins have been lost forever. Do you have an accurate way to estimate this? I do not. Nobody does. I wouldn't go as high as 30. I'm guessing these numbers. I would go closer to 10% has been lost forever. And that's debating whether Satoshi still is able to access his coins or not. And if he is able to access his coins, is he going to access his coins, right? So my best guess is 10% is lost forever. And then like an additional 8 to 10% is owned by Satoshi. And whether he can or cannot or will or won't access it in the future, nobody knows. With Bitcoin, what would be first signs indicators to you of serious problems with its future? Example, SegWit difficulties, government restrictions on exchanges. Anything in the next few months? I don't know. I don't. That's a good question. I'll probably be broke. I probably will not catch the sign I highly doubt anyone will hear me say on a video, Bitcoin is done and time to go somewhere else. I will probably go down with the ship. It's basically like saying gold is done, go to silver, right? I mean, will you ever hear anyone say that, right? They might say, I don't have the chart open, but they might say silver has a better speculative value than gold. But no one will ever say silver will be worth more than gold, and silver is the future, and gold will go away. No one will ever say that, right? And throughout the world, silver has been more widely used as local money than gold was historically. This is the view that I have for Bitcoin. It's not going to go away. And if SegWit doesn't get passed, then that tells me nothing of significance will ever be passed. And we have code as is. And code as is works. It does the job. So something else might have better speculative value. It might be better locally, might be better for microtransactions in your, in your country. And, each country might have their own, version of Bitcoin locally, with Bitcoin being the international settlement. If SegWit doesn't get passed and we're not able to come up with any scaling on-chain or off-chain for Bitcoin, something else will have to form the void of microtransactions. Just like silver filled the void in history for micro and local transactions, while gold was the more of an international kind of settlement and store of value. Silver was much easier to debase silver, and everybody always did in coins. So again, to me, saying that Bitcoin's going to go down and get replaced, it's kind of like people saying gold will. And I'm not even not that big of a fan of gold, but I don't think gold's going to zero. My low end for gold is 700, and then we'll probably make a new high, probably go to 2,000 and 3,000. Look, I'm not denying the fact that every government is devaluing their currency, including the US dollar. But so sooner or later, gold will have to go to 2,000, will have to go to 3,000. But in the meantime, the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 are making 10 times as much money. So I don't know. It's up to the people of what they want to do with their money. Do I think Bitcoin may be too deflationary for its own good? That's a very good question. I'm going to have to say no, and here's why. It's not too deflationary because the world Bitcoin is very predictable. And it's been predictable for 8 years. Almost 9 now. Or is it 8? No, 8 years, just at its 8th birthday. And because it's very predictable, the world had plenty of time to adjust to the deflation of Bitcoin and its stability outside of speculative price fluctuations. And this is what I try to explain on my other videos, where I talk about the stupidity of Zcash and the stupidity of Steemit and the stupidity of everything else. You cannot replicate the first 4 years of Bitcoin's life. It is impossible, because Bitcoin was worthless for 1.5 years with numerous hours of development and numerous investment in mining this thing and electricity costs. And it allowed Bitcoin to spread around the world. And the world adjusted to the inflationary mechanism of Bitcoin. Now, people say, oh, Bitcoin is perfect, the way it halves every 4 years, and the price is always going to be has to go up into it. It's not that Bitcoin is perfect. It's not that Satoshi was a prophet and he was able to foresee what happens 8 years later. It's that the world, because Bitcoin is so spread out around the world, and it gets adopted like in waves, and it gets adopted geographically around the world. India and Argentina now know about Bitcoin. Pretty soon, the Nordic countries will know about Bitcoin, because Scandinavia is going to be the first to eliminate cash. And that entire region is going to flock to Bitcoin. So And the world will know about this. So it's not that Bitcoin is perfectly designed economically. It's that the world adjusts to this mathematical predictability of Bitcoin to give this illusion of Satoshi being this perfect economist who got it right. I try not to believe in idols. I give him amazing credit for giving us the proof of work function that allowed Bitcoin to exist. But I'm not going to give him the credit to foresee the perfect economic wave of Bitcoin 8 years out. I don't think so. I think the world is adjusting to Bitcoin to make it look that way. Yeah, me and Andy Hoffman been going back and forth. I started reading his stuff again, and I'm slowly getting a little frustrated. So me and him need to do a podcast sooner than later before I go on a rant. Though I think I have way too many questions, guys. I really don't want this to go for 3 hours. Bitcoin is governed by math, and eventually human manipulation would become minimized. No, that's a good comment. Bitcoin is governed by math, and eventually human manipulation would become minimized. I can spin that in the opposite direction. Eventually, human greed will get the better of Bitcoin math, and in 100 years, less. In 50 years, if Bitcoin is this backbone of economies, some bad crisis will happen. Maybe another natural disaster bigger than the 1906 San Francisco earthquake, something catastrophic like, I don't know, a meteor hitting and like a quarter of the world population dies, and there's this massive destruction, right? Some kind of catastrophe, like a volcano, another plague like the Black Plague. Something bad happens. And the world gets together and says, and Bitcoin, of course, will go wild in that scenario. And people will get together and they will agree that Bitcoin is too much of a free market and it needs to be controlled. And then we have the Federal Reserve of Bitcoin, right? Where just like the Federal Reserve of 1913, look, people want to be ruled by other people and people want to rule other people. It's usually the worst people end up ruling the masses. And what worries me is, Bitcoin is one day, there was agreement to have more say in the math of Bitcoin. It's possible. That worries me, but not anytime soon. Can't even get segued in right now. Though I think central banks will hold Bitcoin as a reserve just like they do gold. I don't think central banks really hold that much gold anymore. Will they hold it as a reserve? I don't think they will hold it as a reserve. And the reason is because I think governments will have a war on Bitcoin and they will consider it illegal and stuff. So if I had to choose between governments accepting Bitcoin as legit or governments fighting Bitcoin, I will go with governments fighting Bitcoin. Of course, there'll be a war they lose, but I see them fighting it. See, what they said was in the gold, right? They said, well, you can't hold gold, but we can hold gold. They can't really say that to Bitcoin, right? So you can't have a law saying people can't hold Bitcoin, but it's good for government, like the Federal Reserve will hold it. That's not happening. So if that's not happening, then either governments need to approve Bitcoin for everyone, and then the Federal Reserve can hold it, any Federal Reserve, or governments need to declare Bitcoin illicit, but then they can't hold it, right? And I don't see governments embracing Bitcoin anytime soon because it goes against everything they're fighting with money laundering laws. So if I had to pick one, I would say there will be a war on Bitcoin, just like as an extension of a war on cash, because Bitcoin is cash. Oh, and by the way, when we talked about Bitcoin, 20% being lost forever, remember, there's still like 20% of Bitcoin still to go, right? So that percentage will get smaller, even though people continue to lose their Bitcoin. Also, There is a lot of Bitcoin sitting in wallets that can't be touched. The crypto locker cartel, and there's many competitors. The crypto locker has extorted a lot of Bitcoin from people around the world, and it's sitting in all of their wallets in millions and millions of dollars. And it's illegal black money, and it's very hard to move it because there are companies that are tracking this. There are virus fighting companies like F-Secure. By the way, check out F-Secure, check out Mikko Hyppinen's presentations on YouTube. The guy is awesome, one of my favorite presenters to listen to. And he talks about this. So they're literally sitting on millions and millions of dollars in Bitcoin. And one day it might be billions of dollars in Bitcoin. And how do you move $1 billion where the world knows it's black market money? It's a difficult problem. So a lot of that money is just sitting there until they figure out how the hell they can clean it. Technology and human progress has advanced, but that doesn't mean society isn't manipulated and couldn't be better. Look, society is always manipulated. People like to talk about the bad parts, right? No one talks about the good parts. Technology is always advancing. That's good. Also, violence is going down. It's going down. Contrary to mainstream media, violence is going down. Murder rates are going down. Look, eventually there'll be another world war and it'll spike it up. But overall, I mean, I lived in New York for 20, 25 years now. And it's nothing like it was here in the 90s. Like, you couldn't walk down the middle of Manhattan at night in the late 90s, mid 90s, late 90s. Now you can. I'm not scared to go anywhere in Manhattan at night. It's pretty damn safe. Definitely wasn't like that. I mean, go watch the movie The Warriors from the 70s, 80s, 90s, even early 2000s. The world is safer. I hear Chicago is bad. I've been there a few times. Didn't really, sure it's been worse in the past. So, I mean, there are good things happening. Am I afraid of centralized mining in China? No, I'm not. I mean, if the government comes in and confiscates all the mining equipment like all at once, the Chinese government, yeah, it'll be bad. It'll definitely stall the Bitcoin system for a while. Transactions won't confirm for like a day. It happens, and then new miners will be able to come in. The competition will open. There'll be more miners in Iceland where electricity is cheap. Bitfury will step up, because they're in Georgia, I believe. So, yeah, no, I'm not. The centralization of mining in China is overblown. They're only there because of the electricity subsidy. They'll move. All right, guys. Will Bitcoin break 770? I don't think so. I mean, 760 is my buy point. I wasn't really planning on buying any more Bitcoin, but I will if it hits 760. Or maybe I'll start making phone calls to people that owe me some money, and I'm like, hey, can I get it in Bitcoin? Even though nobody will, they'll say, hey, I'll give it to you in a month when it goes back up. Crypto Locker, no, there's like 30 companies competing for Crypto Locker. Crypto Locker is one specific company called Crypto Locker. There's like 30 other companies by different names, and they all do the same thing, just slightly differently. It's also not new. Encrypting the files in your computer and asking for ransom has been around since the 1980s. Look that up. You had to send money to Panama, cash. If people don't use the black money, is it hurting the Bitcoin adoption? in day-to-day uses? Not really. I mean, if Bitcoin is being removed out of circulation, it's making all the other Bitcoins more valuable. I have made an argument that in the future, to kind of give miners a little extra subsidy, someone can write a math formula that estimates how much Bitcoin has been lost forever, like the topic we discussed earlier. And if you're able to properly estimate Bitcoin that has been lost forever, and of course you would focus on Bitcoin that hasn't moved for like 8 years minimum, you can then put that back into circulation. And yes, we will go over 21 million Bitcoins, but if this formula is done right, all you're doing is trying to keep 21 million Bitcoins in circulation, right? So it's kind of like the US dollar computer says that $1 billion in paper money is out in circulation. And people are walking around with the total amount of paper bills in their hands of 1 billion. But some of it gets burned in a fire, some of it gets ripped up, some of it gets lost. So the government computer says that there is 1 billion of physical dollars circling around the world, but in reality, it's more like $500 million circling around the world, 40 years later. So Bitcoin has the same thing, right? Like it says that there are 21 million Bitcoins in existence. But what was Satoshi's vision? Was his vision to keep 21 million Bitcoins in circulation or 21 million Bitcoins in creation? Because those are two very different things, especially if, let's say in the future, 30% of that is lost forever. I personally would not have a problem if there is an algorithm. And I know what I'm saying is controversial. I'm not saying we should do this. I'm just saying I would not put up a fight if 20, 30 years from now, when the mining reward is less than 1 Bitcoin per block, and we know with like 99% certainty that 1 million Bitcoins will never go into circulation again, I would have no problem like adding 1 more Bitcoin to the block for every block for like the next 4 years or whatever, right? To slowly bring that Bitcoin that has been lost forever back into circulation. It's obviously not going to happen. I'm getting comments. I'm not saying I want it to happen. I'm saying I would find this argument reasonable, and I would not fight against this argument. That's all I'm pretty much saying. Okay, so that's a good point, and I've thought about this as well, saying, well, if you know that Bitcoin's going to come back, wouldn't you hold it and then use it? Well, there's two things to that, right? First of all, we're not talking tomorrow, we're talking in 20 years, right? So are you really going to hold Bitcoin for 25 years in order to then drive it back up? And also, people will know 25 years from now, it's like, oh, we thought these 3 Bitcoins would be lost forever, and they seem to be moving. Okay, so we're not going to create 3 extra, right? Because remember, you're replenishing old supply in order that it's assumed to be lost forever, with a minimum of 25 years of it not being moved. So by the time it gets to you, you're probably going to die anyway, right? Also, don't forget, in 25 years, how many of us are not going to properly pass on our private keys after something happens to us? Like if I'm in a car accident tomorrow, I mean, I don't even have that much Bitcoin, but if someone like Roger Ver, or I don't want to like think any bad things, right? But someone with a substantial amount of Bitcoin, if they're in an accident and something happens to them, how do you know their Bitcoin isn't now lost forever? Did they Do they have a will for their, their kids, their wife? What if you don't have any? What if you don't have family? What if you're just by yourself and you didn't? Like, I know if something happens to me, my Bitcoin's gone forever, right? I don't even have that much, but it's definitely gone. If I had a lot, I probably would definitely make arrangements for my family to get it. But right now, they wouldn't know what to do with it, right? So, and who do I trust with that information? We don't have smart contracts for wills to pass on these private keys. And no, we don't need Ethereum. These could be centralized smart contracts that are secure and encrypted to pass on the information upon your death to your family with instructions on how to access your Bitcoins without middleman. We can do all this in a non-decentralized way. No one has stepped up to do it yet, but it's doable. And we're not there yet, right? So what happens to that Bitcoin? It disappears. And as it disappears, it makes other holders of Bitcoin richer because there's less Bitcoin in circulation. I will forgo that selfish idea of Bitcoins being destroyed, making my Bitcoins valuable, because I would like to keep miners subsidized to keep doing what they're doing for as long as possible. And someone wants to argue that we should bring back permanently lost coins in a very slow way, maybe 0.1 Bitcoin at a time per block, 30 years from now. I don't have a problem with that. Yeah, I know I can put it with unlock time, but I mean, these things need to be slightly simplified. I don't even know how to do that. I need to look into it. All right, guys, I can't believe I've been going on for like an hour and a half. This is not my goal. I know you have lots of questions, but I can't keep going with questions. All right, on this note, I'm gonna sign off. Happy trading. I don't know how Bitcoin goes up or down. It depends on which side you're on. If you're short Bitcoin or if you're trying to, buy some more Bitcoin, you want it to go down. I am agnostic on Bitcoin going up and down for the time being, as long as mining is stable and mass adoption is knocking on the door to get SegWit in. I don't mind Bitcoin being at these prices, as long as, it goes at slow move up. I mean, this is great and this is great. But I don't know, stability goes a long way. The more stable, if you want Bitcoin adoption, real adoption, you want it to be a stable currency. You don't want it to be a high-flying currency. Let's put it that way. All right, guys, signing off, and see you middle of the week.